Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Well, hello, everybody. I am so glad that you joined us. And today we are going to answer your calls, and we're going to talk with you about all the things that are difficult in your life. And by we, I mean Jim Burns, who is with us, and Dr. Jill Hubbard, who will join us later. How are you doing, Jim?
Very good, Becky. Good to talk with you. And sounds like Jill has some traffic here in Southern California. Surprise, surprise.
It happens. The social media world has all kinds of really short little informational pieces that are thought-provoking and inspiring and all of those things. Here's one that we came across, and it says, marriage is hard, divorce is hard, obesity is hard, being fit is hard, being in debt is hard, being financially disciplined is hard, communication is hard, not communicating is hard. Choose your hard. And, how can we encourage people, Jim, that there are challenges to life, and how can we reframe our thinking so that when we come up against the challenges of life, that we can kind of, either gather our resources, connect with others, but, how do we face these challenges, these truths that life is hard?
Yeah. That's actually, that's an incredible phrase that you just said. And when you really think about it, life isn't easy. There's pain in life. One of the things I like to say is, hey, it's either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, but you're going to have pain. So I think for a lot of us, it's important to lean into it. It is going to be hard, but what hard do you want? When you play the movie forward, do you want to go to the hard where there's positive results, or you want to go to the hard where there's negative results? And obviously, the people who make good and wise decisions are the people who have it better. It's still not easy. I mean, Jesus never said, if you come to me, life will be easy. I mean, he never promised that. He promised to be with us through that, but he didn't promise us that life was going to be easy. And I actually know that when I was a young man, I became a Christian when I was 16, not raised in the church. I actually thought, life was going to get a lot better for me. I think it got more complicated for a bit.
Yep, it does do that. Even to quote Jesus in that passage that he says, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And it's because he knew that it was going to be difficult, that we were going to face some challenges, because we live on this earth, and there are things that are struggling, or that we struggle through, that we sometimes think, how do I get to the easy life? Right. And I think we might have the easy life for about 5 minutes on a good day. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's all bad. I am very grateful for so many things. But Jim, don't you see people who will look at life through that glass half full and get stuck in the half fullness?
I think so. And, Jesus spoke to it in this into the Sermon on the Mount when he said, there's going to be rain and wind and storms. And it's kind of how if you build your house on a rock, then you're going to do fine. If you build your house on sand, it's going to crash. And when we really look back at our life and we look back at some of those really tough times, if our house is built in a good place, we bend and sometimes almost break, but we don't lose heart through that. If we built our house on the sand and made some really poor choices, it's going to crash. The good news is there's always hope, and there's always the grace of God, and he can pick us up and we can move in another direction. That's the good news of the gospel.
It surely is. And one of the reasons why New Life exists is for people to get to a better place in their life. We do that through our workshops, where you'll hear others who have been in a difficult place, who have overcome. You'll get connected with a counselor, that somebody who can help you move forward. Maybe it's getting into life recovery. Life is hard, but God has a plan, and he's got all of this difficulty, and he will use it for our good. But we need each other to get through these difficult days. But there is always hope, like you said, Jim. We're going to take your calls, and we'll be right back after this break.
My husband was involved with pornography addiction.
He was unfaithful. I called the wedding off. He stepped out on the marriage and ended up having a child.
The Restore Workshop is designed for a woman dealing with a man's sexual addiction issues.
My husband is a recovering sex addict. There were strip clubs, other ladies.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Workshop will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
Restore has empowered me and has given me the tools to work through my anger, work through my pain, work through my confusion, and help me realize that I am worthy.
Being here and being surrounded by people who get it has given me my power back.
The Restore Workshop is coming to Washington, D.C. November 3rd through the 5th. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to find out more. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com.
Thank you, Restore. You have changed my life forever.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are so glad that you joined us today. And, if you're dealing with something that's difficult, give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. We're going to go right to the calls. And we're going to talk to Mary, who's calling us from Bristol, Tennessee. Watches us on YouTube. We're so grateful for our YouTube family. Hi, Mary. How can we help you today?
Yes, I've been going through a lot of anxiety and depression, and I'm on different medications and have been for several months. And I've been several times to some therapy, but I haven't really been maybe 3 times. But anyhow, it's got to where I'm so depressed that I can't concentrate. I cannot even enough to read my Bible, and I feel like I just have no feelings. I feel empty. I feel nothing, and it's bothering me. It bothers me real bad. And I want my joy back. I want my joy back.
That's a good response, Mary. We hear you. So you're not in therapy right now, and do you have a psychiatrist that's prescribing the medicine, or is it like family doctor?
A psychiatrist.
Okay.
And I am in therapy. I've been a few times, but only twice to one guy. And
okay, all right. Well, Jim, let's start with you, and we'll get you started on a path, Mary, to maybe some freedom from this. Yeah. What would you suggest?
Well, first of all, Mary, you're doing a lot of right things, and I'm really glad you're seeing a psychiatrist because sometimes some medication it works on some people and sometimes it doesn't. So that psychiatrist may have to, kind of deal with it in different ways, and so keep in front of your psychiatrist because if the medicine doesn't work, and don't expect it to work overnight, but if it doesn't work, then they may have to make some changes. And also the therapy is good. Anxiety and depression is something that's normal. It's a big gray cloud over your head. And sometimes it takes time. Other times, we can find that joy real quickly. But, I think you keep pursuing what you're doing and lean into this and figure out, with the help of others, a person like your psychiatrist and your therapist, figure out, what is it? Did anything happen, months ago or in your life that perhaps could cause this anxiety and depression, or did it just kind of creep up on you?
It kind of creeped up on me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there could be so many things. I mean, that, medically, just even in terms of getting a physical with your doctor, endocrine, hormone. I mean, there's so many. So I would say make sure you have a plan. Get someone who can help you work through the plan to find out what is going on. And, I think I find that people who have an experience like yours, they really can get help if they keep pursuing it. And I think that's even a biblical thing that we do, that we literally, keep on seeking and seek God's help. And at the same time, listen to wise counsel. Becky?
Yeah, I was thinking all of those things, Jim, you're right. You need to have a comprehensive approach. Mary, you can't relate it to any event in particular, right? You just said that it's just something that is just kind of crept up on you. How can I ask you how old you are?
Yes, I'm 77.
Okay. And do you live by yourself? Do you have family near you?
I have a son that lives not too far from me and a sister who visits during the summer sometimes, and she's here now, but she's got to go home in a few weeks.
Okay.
That's another one of my problems. I just don't like being by myself. Huh?
Right. Well, see, that's the reason why I asked that, Mary, because a lot of times, going along with what Jim was saying, depression is an illness that attacks the brain, literally, and then the whole body. You have an experience where it impacts everything, but isolation is it's one of the symptoms. And so when you're all by yourself, and then the aging process, you're detached from your family, there has to be a plan going forward, and it can't be just, if you go to the counselor, you may not be able to talk about what's wrong because you can't figure it out, because depression dulls that thought process. But Jill, I would love to hear from you. Mary's struggling with depression and anxiety, is on medication, has a psychiatrist, has gone to a counselor a couple times, but still kind of stuck.
Well, Mary, I'm so sorry to hear that, because it's not fun to experience these kinds of symptoms. And throughout life, people that struggle with this, it can kind of come and go. And you have, seasons of life or periods of time where it gets worse. Somebody said to me recently that depression is the opposite of connection. And so when you're looking at what you're adding into the mix, you've got a psychiatrist, that's great. So medication is good, but medication alone is not enough. Going to therapy, that's really important, because that's the best combination for the best efficacy. But connection in your life is really important. And at times in our lives, you just talked about people moving away. When we slow down, when we have time to really think, that's when things kind of come up that have been maybe pushed to the background when we were busier at earlier times in life. So it's a really good time to kind of reflect on things, and also to be aware that, a lot of us kind of run a little bit anxious, right? And so, doing some things to just help calm your body down, to, make sure you're not, that like you're taking deep breaths, and you're doing some, can you hear me? You're doing some things that are calming in your life, but at the same time, you need the stimulation of connection with others. And so if you're not involved in your church, if you aren't with friends, those things are important and can help you to battle it.
Yeah. I was going to say something. When you were saying this, Jill, you and I had a caller about a month ago, and it was a woman about the age of Mary, and her story was she had a tough time, and she was going through some anxiety and depression, and you gave her great clinical insight, and I said to this fine woman, and I almost thought it was too light, but I said, you know what? What about going to your church and volunteering, holding babies, whatever? Well, I got the nicest email from her.
Oh,
and she just said, thank you so much. You guys were so helpful to me, and I am in counseling now. And you know what? I started volunteering in the church nursery, and I started talking to the moms, and I started holding these babies, and you know what? I'm not as depressed. No, I'm not saying that's the only answer.
But it is amazing.
But isn't that crazy? And she was about 77 years old, just like Mary. And what had happened was I think she had been focusing so much on herself that she forgot that she could get to that church, she could hold those babies, she could love on people.
And here's the thing. Depression causes us to kind of look inward, right? Yeah. And we shrink our world. Well, anxiety, too, it's hard to go out when you feel so anxious. So, Mary, you have to start with what's kind of lower risk for you. Yeah. What would be the least anxiety producing? Because as you do that, right, then you feel like you can do more. And with depression, sometimes it's like, okay, it's hard to even get out of the house. So if it's just that you go sit outside in your yard, you walk to the mailbox, you've got to do something to leave your house every single day. Yeah.
Does that sound like something you can do, Mary?
It does. It does.
Good.
I've been walking to the mailbox and walking and trying to get out a little bit more. I'm trying.
Do you have a church that you're part of, Mary?
I am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, because it's funny because we can get real, like you just said, Jill, our anxiety can keep us from doing those things,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to push through that. But it helps sometimes if you can connect with somebody that you are friends with at the church and say, hey, can I sit with you Sunday? And, I'll be there. That way, that somebody's looking forward to you being there, and you also know that you'll see
Right.
somebody there.
Mm-hmm.
But just to make it
Right.
part of the rhythm. And I think if you'll talk to the counselor about having a strategy of, how do I get through this? Because depression makes us distorted in our thinking. And so it can be very hard to express what's inside of us when we're depressed. But the counselor can help you kind of uncover those things and make those connections in your thought process that can help you further. But we're going to give you, I think, a copy of the 100 Days of Freedom from Depression devotional. I think that'll be helpful. And Mary, if you'll stay on, we'll get you connected with a counselor maybe in your area that may be a little bit different than the one you're with. Not that the one you're with is bad. It's nice to have options. Depression is a hard thing because people, it's a valley. Anxiety can lead us into depression, but I think we'll get her started in the right direction. We're so glad that you called. We're going to go to Frank, who's calling us from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Listens on WFIL. Hi, Frank. I'm glad you called. How can we help you today?
Yes. Good afternoon. Question is, I have I was diagnosed about in the year 2000. First, it was just retinitis pigmentosa, and then about a year later, or 6 months later, it was neuropathy. At that time, it was just numbness from my knees to my toes. That was it. Over time, it got worse, a lot worse, where the muscles are stiff, tight, heavy, weak and numb, the whole body. And my eyes got real bad after cataract surgery where I can barely see anymore. And hard time walking around. I need a walker. I can't leave the house without someone being with me because I can't really see anymore. I do my usual prayers. I always pray for many people. And I always throw myself in there. Am I wasting my time praying for myself? Because I just saw my neurologist last Thursday for my twice-a-year checkup. And she said, for the first time, she said, I'm actually getting worse. I've been saying that for a couple of years. She kept saying, no, you're the same, you're the same. Is it a waste? Oh, I told the lady answer the phone. I try not listening to medical doctors. I listen to naturopathic doctors when I can. I took supplements. I forget all the names of them. I know Oculotropin, Adrenaline, X39 patch, some other things by Standard Process and other companies. Nothing's getting better. If something doesn't work, it's short-lived. It may work for a couple of weeks or a couple of days, and that's it. Is it a waste of time to keep praying that God heals me, or should I just learn to accept who I am and try to go from there?
Gosh, Frank, we are so sorry to hear of the challenges that you're going through. But Jim, let's start with you. Is it a waste of time?
May I add something?
Sure.
Oh, sure.
I used to be a busy bee. I was a cop. I was also an RN. I also was a hairdresser. I was doing everything, and I can't do anything. I hate it.
Go ahead, Jim.
Frank, tough. You got a tough call. It's tough, and it's so hard when somebody tells us something like your situation, because there's no easy answer on this at all. But it's not a waste to go to God. The reason I say that is because even when you look at names of God, there's the Holy Spirit is a comforter. You definitely need comfort. And yet one of the names for God is Rapha, which actually means to heal. Now, sometimes God doesn't heal us in the same manner we want him to heal. And so part of those prayers that you're praying for, keep praying for healing and keep praying for answers. And as you seek them, you may find them in surprising places. But at the same time, I think we have to pray to God to say, God, with what I've been handed, what do you want me to do? Who do you want me to be? And those are important questions. Now, again, there's some pretty, amazing stories of people who have had situations like yours, and I don't never play the comparison game, but ones that are where people are confined to wheelchairs and things like that. What you see in common with those people is they do keep praying to God. They are still close to God, and yet sometimes I think we always, and I do this. I want my circumstance to change, but I need to say to you, sometimes your circumstance may not change, but your attitude and your health and your looking at life can change. And that's going to make all the difference in the world. Does that mean that you may not need a walker one day? I don't know. I'd sure keep practicing health. But at the same time, is it possible to take this stuff and allow your life to be full? I think it's possible, and I don't think it's easy. But I keep seeing people who are doing that, and with their life, they're thriving, and their circumstance didn't change.
Yeah. Frank, hold on. You can hear the music. We're going to be back after this break, and we'll hear from Jill. But, it is tough. I love what you just said, though, Jim. With what I have been handed, what do you want from me, Lord? And that applies to so many of us. We hear your pain and your struggle, Frank, and we want to help you. And I think what you just said, Jim, is applicable to all of us, no matter what our situation is. God can use us, and we got to keep praying. It's all part of the process. We'll be back after this.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found life recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 Steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433.
I've been listening to New Life for many years, gone to a few workshops. I want to support a ministry that helps people connect with God and with others and gives them the tools to help transform their lives.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Healing, 100 Days from Freedom from Shame, and 100 Days of Freedom from Anger. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We were talking with Frank before the break, and Frank has had a devastating physical diagnosis, and it's impacting every part of his life, and just wants to know if it's a waste of time to keep praying. And we got some insight from Jim, but Jill, let's hear from you. How would you encourage Frank?
Well, Frank, I love everything that Jim shared with you. And the one thing about this life is we don't always have control over all of our circumstances as much as we would like to think we do. And there are, as Paul talked about, those thorns in our side. And so, yes, you have these diagnoses. And it's interesting because, wow, when you listed off all the things you've done in life, that's a lot. And so for a really active, energetic person that, all of those positions mean you have to kind of be large and in charge, right? This would be very humbling. And so God has you in a new season of life. And I think you do two things, both of the things that you stated. You pray. You always pray because we need to be talking to God in all circumstances. But we also learn acceptance, right? So you're praying for the miracle while accepting what is right now. And as Paul says, to learning to be content in all circumstances. And it doesn't mean you're happy about what's happened to you or that you like it. You just, wherever you're at, learn to deal, as Jim was saying, with the limitations that you've been dealt. And I've had so many people that bemoan their limitations. And certainly there's a time to go through that, right? But it doesn't mean just because you're not in the same physical condition as you once were, it doesn't mean that God is done using you, Jim, as you alluded to. And so it's like, okay, maybe you can't walk now, but what can you do from a chair? There are lots of things that you can do from a chair with people. And so stay connected, stay involved, reflect on things, use this season to draw closer to the Lord and to, kind of lay your life before him.
Yeah. Frank, I want to tell you a neat story. There's a woman named Johnny Erickson Tata, and I would consider her a friend, and she's been paralyzed in a wheelchair, different situation than yours. One day I was interviewing her, and she rolled in, literally, and had kind of an entourage around her. And I put my interview questions aside, and I just looked at her and I said, Johnny, how do you remain so beautiful and radiant in the midst of all of your pain? And I knew she was even in physical pain, as you would with neuropathy. And she paused, and then she looked at me and she said, Jim, I've learned to give thanks in all situations. She said, it's become my reflex reaction. And part of prayer is asking, and keep on asking, please do. But also part of prayer is being thankful and grateful. And Johnny taught me a lesson. Honestly, a tear rolled down my eye when she said that, because she touched my soul. Because I thought I whine and grumble about everything, and I don't hear you doing much whining and grumbling, to be honest. You're amazing.
Yeah.
And I might be a whiner and a grumbler if I was you. But thanksgiving, adoration, confession, those are all parts of prayer too, as well as supplication or asking.
Right.
And so make your prayer life, all of that. Read through the Psalms. Read the Proverbs. I mean, the Psalms are so healing to so many. And you know what? When you really look at the psalmists, in their writings, they're doing some complaining about, this isn't fair, God. and God's big enough to hear your complaints and concerns too. Is
that helpful, Frank?
Yes and no. I appreciate it, but I heard pretty much similar things before.
Okay.
I said I don't complain. I didn't tell you. I'll be brief. On Tuesday, May 30th, I was at a podiatrist just for my toenails. A resident came in. Again, I can't see. I said, who's there? Who's there? He doesn't want to respond. I'm like, who's there? He's kind of talking real softly. He removed the callus not supposed to be removed. And now I got an ulcer in my foot. I just started going back to the gym. A neighbor was driving me. I was starting to enjoy things again. And now I'm not supposed to be walking for the ulcer to heal. He did something he wasn't supposed to do. And now nurses come to my house all the time. It was years before. The foot was infected. I lost part of my foot due to infection. But I hear people all the time saying, Frank, you look really good. You sound really good considering. I know what they mean. I present well, but inside I'm not doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Frank,
that's
here's
healthy.
the thing.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. You asked the question, is it a waste of time to pray? No, it is not. You've heard from Jill and Jem. Here's the thing, though. We have to add to the prayer. Not that prayer isn't enough, but we talk about this all the time, is that there's not just one thing that fixes everything. And so one of the things, I think Jill was just talking about acceptance, and there's a phrase from the Big Book in AA that says acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. And to get into the mindset of, how do I connect with others in a way that I feel seen and heard in the way that I am, and accept the place that I'm in? And I think, Frank, I hear you that it is one challenge after the other. And
I went to AA for years too.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. I
hated myself in the beginning. I buried myself in the bottle. I'm sober now, but I wasn't for about 15, 18 years or something like that.
And so maybe, Frank, I know that sounds like a strange idea considering the situation, but maybe getting connected with the Life Recovery Group. We have them online so that you wouldn't have to travel anywhere. You can connect with others who are working the program, because as you know, that freedom, that surrender to what I'm dealing with today can give you the freedom to open up your life in a new and a different way. We're going to send you a copy of the Life Recovery Bible. Jill, were you going to say something?
Well, I appreciate your honesty, Frank, because you're right. It's not easy.
Me too. And I don't want you to think that we hear it that way either, Frank. We'll be praying for you. We're so glad you called. We'll be right back.
Most of my life I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. Chris Williams on coaching.
Oftentimes I get asked, what is the difference between therapy and coaching? The biggest difference between the two is that a therapist is going to be looking for a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas a coach is going to look at a particular issue and help a person work through that.
If you need a coach, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
If you're looking at an issue in your life that you just kind of want to change, whether it be your weight or leadership or other areas of behavioral patterns, check out coaching. There can be some really, really helpful things for you.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 and talk to us about getting a New Life coach. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. There's something that we talk about here all the time, and that's life recovery. I just mentioned that to Frank on that last call. And, you know, every Tuesday we have a Life Recovery Today program that's aired on NRB TV at 9:30 Eastern Time. And we're in a series right now where we're talking specifically about each and every step. And today was step 4. It's making that list. And I just think if you have never really gotten into recovery or maybe you're afraid of it, who knows? But you could go to liferecoverytoday.net and see all of those programs, or you can call us. We'll get you connected with a life recovery group somewhere. And I think it'll be a great start. Go ahead, Jill.
Becky, I just wanted to add one more thing. And I think, yes, what we offer in our life recovery is wonderful and can be of great benefit to all kinds of people who are struggling. But I wanted to add one more thing, because Frank is struggling, and we heard his strength, but I'm glad he also shared that no, he's really suffering too. Mm-hmm, and I think with physical suffering, it just wears you down, and it's like, Lord, really? Like, how long do I have to endure, right?
Right.
Like some of the Psalms. But there's a ministry that's called Hope Heals, and it's about long suffering. And it's Catherine and Jay Wolf. And Catherine, right after they were married, had a series of strokes, and half of her face is frozen. She's in a chair most of the time. And so they have a ministry that deals with the long suffering when you're dealing with physical pain and chronic illnesses. So that might be something he could check out as well.
Very good. Very good. Well, we're going to continue taking calls. We're going to talk to Renee, who is calling us from Chicago, listens to us online. Hello, Renee. Thanks for being Club New Life as well. We appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
How can we help you today? You're welcome.
A question regarding a 10-year-old family member, a little boy. He has been caught 2 times online searching. He puts in, like, naked ladies. The first time he was caught, he was talked to. They put blocks on everything. Then recently, somehow he got around the block, and they found the search again, his parents. So just generally, I was looking for resources for them. How do they talk to him? The best way to talk to him? And should there be action, like punishment actions?
Okay.
That they would
All right.
take?
Well, thanks for that question, Renee. I know that you're not alone, or this family's not alone. Jill, how would you start?
Well, I'm
with
thinking,
this?
first of all, our books, Preparing for Every Young Man's Battle, or Every Young Man's Battle, those books that to spend some time connecting with him and talking to him. And this is time to be teaching how we, respond to the opposite sex. In the midst of that, I would also want to explore what's going on with him inside. Why is he feeling compelled? Has something happened? Has he seen something? Is he curious and he's trying to get more information? Like, what really has gone on? Now, lots of boys are curious, and
that's his answer. I'm sorry. When they do ask him, he says he's curious.
Okay.
That's the only response they can get from him.
Okay. So, right. And trying to get him to expound on that a little more, like our other boys at school talking about it, and what are you curious about? Right? Now, it may be hard for him to put words to it. So with young kids, sometimes we try to name things and ask them if that's right. Are you, I mean,
okay.
Most kids at one point or another, when they're very young and grade school, will, look at the opposite sex, right? Little kids, you find them pulling their pants down, right, in the playground or something like that, right? They do that because they just want to know, what does the other person look like, right? And so there is some of that. He's a little older in that, but what has transpired? So a lot of kindness, exploring, connecting with his heart, while at the same time teaching what's appropriate, right? When little kids fondle themselves, they don't get to do that in public, right? If they're doing something of that nature, that's for the bathroom, right? And things like that. So putting parameters around it. And then watching other areas of behavior. I mean, one is the sneakiness, right?
Yeah.
He's sneaking, so he feels bad about it. So that's another area to explore. Why is it that he's feeling bad about this, that he's hiding it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jim, is that a question to ask him? Like, why are you hiding it?
Yeah, the fact that he's hiding it says that he feels like he knows at some level this isn't right for me to do. So getting him to talk about that. Why is it that this isn't, you're not doing this out in the open? So tell us about why, tell us about the fact that that there's something that you have to hide in this. And whenever we have to hide things from our parents, it's probably something we shouldn't be doing, right? So he's got to start articulating, like just one-word answers aren't really enough.
Renee, I really appreciate your call because if you Google this, you'll see that the average boy sees porn at age 10. Okay, 10.6 or whatever. And a girl, by the way, is now just dropped under the age of 12 into the 11-year-old age. So, he's not experiencing something that other kids aren't. And that's also hard because you have the peer pressure of kids showing, and talking at other places. One of the things that we like to talk about in this is, he's seen porn. That's not what you want him to see. And he may not know how to articulate some of even the shame and whatnot. But it is the time to teach healthy sex education. Mm-hmm. So one of the ways to do that is say, you know what, honey, it's not this, it's this. So you find the resource that's not now about porn, but it's about, God created your body. God sees it as good in the context of marriage and, all these issues. And way too many parents wait. But actually, we say 10. The reason we say 10 is because, A, they're going to see porn, and you don't want that to be their sex education. B, they're going through puberty. So they may not, there may not be hair growing where hair, wasn't at once growing. That's going to happen maybe a tad bit later, or, body's changing, voices, everything. But on the inside, they're already changing. And so, parents have to understand that the very best sex education happens around puberty. And again, even younger if you can talk about it. Mm-hmm. But what we find is that when parents have conversations about that healthy sexuality, the more positive, value-centered sex education you give kids, the less promiscuous, and listen to this, the less confused they'll be. That's research, okay? Mm-hmm. So you use a bad experience, and sure, you do what they said. You add filters. Now, what are we doing? We don't want to give and I'm not blaming, these folks, but kids will see this stuff. But what you do is you do add filters. But what you just said earlier in the conversation was they can get around filters. They've figured that out, right? So you put on filters, you do all that. Yeah, there's probably some punishment. You know what, honey, you can't now watch, have this alone, or don't put it in their bedroom. My goodness, we had people at 10, something called the mobile device, and we just handed them the world, and we handed them all the pornography in the world, right? And then we say, it's in your bedroom. Well, we don't do that. You put it in a place. At first, you teach them how to do this. But again, I want to go back to the fact that this is their opportunity to teach positive, healthy, value-centered sex education. Today, there's great resources on that, and they can find that even on the internet. Finding good Christian input for 10-year-olds, actually. But again, start it by saying, okay, you've had this experience, but let me tell you about God's way.
Yeah, don't continue to shame him in this, right? Use it as a launch pad. Okay, we now know it's time. You're curious, you're exploring.
Sure.
So
when when you all were talking about curiosity, of course we're curious.
Right.
So now let's make it from the parents, the ones who kind of demystify some of this stuff.
Right,
instead of learning
and the
at the
parents
school.
have to be comfortable. You have to use, the terms. You can't be awkward in it. You just have to put it out there on the table.
Well, you have to be comfortable. I agree, but it's awkward. Like I speak on this,
well,
and
it is,
I
but
write.
you have to fake
I
it.
write on this, and my daughter said, Dad, you were great in front of a bunch of kids when you talk about it. You were so awkward. Your bald head sweat. Your ears turned red. You stuttered, and yet it got out. So I'm saying to parents today, no, we still have to. We're going to be awkward a bit.
I love that.
Right.
Comfortable with our awkwardness, maybe.
Yes,
Let's
I love that.
say
yes,
that, Jill.
exactly.
Well, Renee, we'll send you a copy of Every Young Man's Battle, and hopeful that will help with the family. And I just appreciate you calling in, because I know that there are other folks that are dealing with the same thing. I love what you said, though, Jim, is take it as an opportunity to teach healthy, God-centered sexuality, because they got to learn somewhere. And, the family can be a great resource, but they may need help too, because Lord knows that may not be right. That might be, in the way that they were brought up. So we're glad you called, Renee. I know that Larry is in the studio, and when we come back after the break, I see all things. I mean, it's amazing.
We were wondering if you knew.
No, I know. I got it. Don't worry. We will be back after this, and we got a few more calls, but we're going to talk to Larry right after the break. We're so grateful to be able to offer the workshops, the resources, the counselors, because we want to help you in all the different ways that we can. We'll be right back.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you. Or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. I hope that you will join us at one of our workshops that we have coming up before the end of this year, because then 2024 will be all the more better. You can call us and find out some more information or go to newlife.com. I said that we would talk to Larry, and Larry, we are going to talk to you.
Okay.
What do you got for us today?
Becky, a week from this weekend, on the 20th of October, Intimacy and Marriage starts in Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
And we have all types of people who come to this. And I want to read a brief little testimony here. This woman writes, "My husband and I are just 2 months married. Initially, I felt intimidated as there were older couples at the workshop. But meeting with our group, I got to really know and enjoy being with them. Before this event, thinking of my childhood was a blur. But listening to other people's stories reminded me of mine. Our group therapist also knew what questions to ask for things I didn't know I held in my heart. I heard my husband talk and I felt empathy for him. I believe one of the greatest things I learned was learning how to do the comfort circle, to listen and to validate feelings when no one in my childhood had ever done so." So, folks, you maybe have been married 25, 35 years. You maybe been married 2 months. This workshop is for you. So I just want to encourage you to call us, 800-NEW-LIFE, and talk to whoever answers the phone. Tell them you need to know more about this workshop and you're interested in signing up. And if money is ever an issue, let us know that. We can get you a scholarship application.
I couldn't agree more, and I hope to see you there for sure. Thank you. Thank you, Larry. We're going to go to one more call. We're going to talk with Jeff, who's calling us from Ontario, Canada. Yeah, that's right. And listens on the podcast. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for calling. How can we help you?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, I got a question. So I got a history of being cheated on. So I'm currently married. I have 2 biological children. My wife came into a relationship with the son. The father's not in the picture. Long story short, recently I found some witchcraft items in the home, to which I asked her what the deal was with that, if she was aware of anybody might have put that there, or anywho. Second issue is I caught her flirting with the guy. Ever since I caught her, she didn't see me catch her. I saw her taking down the guy's number, and so ever since then, I had been observing her texting. She has since she doesn't stay with me anymore. She has since secured a lease on an apartment. This is the second time she's already left. The first time I kicked her out, man. The second time, she left on her own. I need some sort of guidance in the context of, do I have like grounds for divorce? I started the process. I spoke to a paralegal. We have since spoken about what she wants to request, what I want to request. At this point, I'm just kind of I just want what's best for my kids, but at the same time, I go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, we just have a few minutes, Jeff, and I want to give Jill and Jim some time to answer.
Right.
But Jill, why don't we start with
Jeff? So painful, and the fact that you have a history of this, you are probably hyper aware and vigilant to any signs of it.
I'm prior military, man.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I'm prior military. I'm having a really hard time taking the uniform off still, man.
Yes. Okay.
It's affecting. It's really affecting me. I mean,
yeah.
I'm having issues at work.
Of course.
On Tuesday last week, I was pretty much asked to leave the facility. My psychiatrist, put me out for the rest of the week. Today was my first day back to work.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I've already started the process of Social Security, man. I'm in that much pain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in that much pain.
Yeah. Well, it's one. Go ahead.
She's just wanting to take everything from me, man.
Well, and Jeff, Jill, I want to give him some help before we run out of the time.
No, it's okay.
No, you're fine, Jeff.
No,
it's hard.
It's okay. Being military, you have to keep that front, and I'm grateful that you're letting it out here with
my
us.
last job,
my last job in the military.
Yeah.
To bury veterans. Prior to that, I deployed. I was a bodyguard, ma'am. I was a bodyguard for 2 very high-ranking individuals.
Yeah.
It took a lot for me to come to work at the post office because I still felt I had it in my heart.
Yeah.
So
Jeff, I want you to continue this process of talking about it. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time here today. But this is what you need to do with somebody who is safe and a professional that can help kind of walk beside you through this, right? It's one thing when you've had an experience previously, you know, when it happens again, it triggers all of that post-traumatic stress of, oh no, not again. And so it really devastates. And so I want you to get in with someone and maybe since you're a veteran through the VA, or we can give you some Christian referrals, really important that you stay connected. You're doing the steps that you need to do to take action, but your heart is breaking. And so you need someone to tend to your heart.
Yes, Jim?
Yeah, Jeff, I'm so sorry. And thank you again for your service and all that you've done. You were a bodyguard, and you're in a place now where you need somebody to be around you. A bodyguard does so much more than, kind of watch for bad guys. A bodyguard, really takes care of whoever you were taking care of.
Yeah.
And right now, and I'm going to use, because you're from Canada, an illustration on hockey. You need some wingmen to come alongside you, and that might be a counselor, by the way, and it might be a pastor. But some
might be multiple.
Right, to help you get through this process. So I wouldn't rush the divorce. Your long-term goal is a right relationship with God and a right relationship with your loved ones. And you mentioned your children, and that's so great. But if you don't get the help you need, you're not going to be as beneficial to your kids. So bring people around you. Get a team around you, just like you see in the military. I mean, get a team around you who's going to help you get to where you want to be. And that might mean, as Jill mentioned, within the Veterans Administration, they do have some really great resources for PTSD and things like that. Because PTSD is more than just being in the military. PTSD is when you've had things happen to you. Right, you've
trauma.
had people walk out on you, and so that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
So get your wingmen and wing women if they have those. In terms of that's somebody who can help you through that process. And you know what? I think you'll get the answer by going through the process, and no easy shortcuts on this one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're right, because the emotional piece is really, really important. Sure. Doing the other things, you don't want to rush that, because that doesn't really take care of the emotional piece.
Right. We're going to send you a copy, Jeff, of Healing is a Choice. We'll get you connected with a therapist in your area, or if, like Jill and Jim mentioned, you can go to the VA. But we want you to know you need support. You can't do this by yourself. Mm-hmm. And, decision making is taxing in and of itself. So you need the support as you go through this. We're so grateful that you called. We are grateful for your service. And I know our audience will be praying for you. I just think one of the challenges always is you feel so alone when you're overwhelmed with the emotions. How can we encourage our audience today, Jim or Jill, with even a word of scripture that, I just think we started with how hard life is. This is how we're ending it. Jim, you got anything that you can add?
You know what I start with, and I started with it this morning. It's on my head a lot, of scripture that says, "This is the day the Lord has made. Acknowledge that God made today, whether it's good or bad, whether it's raining or not. But I'm going to choose to rejoice in it." And I think we can always find reasons to rejoice even in the midst of our pain. And I think that helps us do life. It doesn't take away our pain sometimes, but it helps us get through that process.
I agree. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.